just make sure I am on Facebook. We are good. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. My name is Christina Previtt. I am one of two lead faculty for modern management of the older adult, the geriatric. We have 3 courses that we are involved with. Our 8-week online essential foundations that just started. We have our first meetup today on St. Patrick's Day. So if that is a holiday you celebrate, happy St. Patrick's Day. I have a toddler at home, so I feel like my St. Patrick's days are over. We also teach our advanced concepts course. That's an 8-week online course that is going to be starting again in October. You have to have taken an essential foundations to take advanced concepts. And we have our live course that is coming up. We have a couple of courses in April. I'm going to be at Limitless Physical Therapy in Victor, New York, April 17th, 18th. And then I'll be at Onward Charlotte in Charlotte, North Carolina at the end of April on the 24th, 25th. If you guys are interested, those are open courses and you are definitely going to be able to jump in. We also just added a course in June. We had a closed course that was in Arizona on the 25th of June or 26th, and we added one because we had some people asking to get into those courses. We added one on the 19th, 20th. So if you are interested and you're in the Arizona area, we have a course that is coming up in June down there at in Arizona. So it's super, super exciting. Okay, so today I was thinking about, so I'm getting ready for the sampler. Sampler is end of next week. And I'm doing a 2-hour presentation around the older adult hip. So we're talking about 2 very common pathologies. We're talking about arthritis and osteoporosis, which can lead to hip replacement and fracture. And I started looking and really deep diving into the osteoporosis literature. And if you've taken advanced concepts, you know that Dustin does a whole week on osteoporosis. And I really started reflecting on the way that we care for individuals with low bone mineral density. And usually when we have a person that has osteoporosis, we think, okay, that's good to know. I should have something like, make sure that I'm not doing any forceful twisting, and you start going down a list of things that you shouldn't be doing. And that's not exactly what the literature says. Like, we think that this is something that isn't amenable to change, and that's just simply not true. So there are 2 things that come up when we're treating osteoporosis. One is we need to try and eliminate fear of movement. We need to start slow and progress, but the Lift More trials in moderate to severely osteoporotic women as well as men, they did 2 trials, showed that risk of fragility fracture was low, and the benefits of high intensity resistance training like jumping and hinging and lifting heavy weights and getting your body used to it, getting your body more resilient to these things, avoiding 1 rep max living is high. So number 1, with some of these pathologies, we may not have to have the same fear around movement that has just contributed to this pandemic of underdosing that we're seeing in the geriatric world. And this is true for so many things, right? Like we talked about hip precautions. I talked about a couple weeks ago, those hip precautions and how they may not be necessary and they're probably leading to underdosage because we don't want to do a hip hinge early post-op because we're afraid that hip flexion is going to go beyond 90 degrees. All of those things. So the first thing is, if we're looking at a condition, are we just thinking about all the things we can't do instead of considering all the things we can do? And osteoporosis, I think, is a good example. What we know around remodeling bone is that, especially for women, estrogen is a growth factor. With estrogen declining as women transition through menopause, we're going to have less of a growth factor and more of a breakdown factor in terms of the hormonal balance when it comes to bone remodeling. So number of cells that are breaking down is going to be higher than the number of signals for cells to rebuild. What that means is that we're going to have women who are more at risk for pockets or porous bones, which leads to osteopenia or osteoporosis. What we do know is that, especially individuals with severe osteoporosis, we can make a huge difference. What does this mean? It means that with my client with osteoporosis, in order to try to improve bone mineral density, treat bone mineral density, not just consider it, I'm going to be trying to do some considerations around how do we treat osteoporosis. We need to have specificity. So if we are treating somebody who has low bone mineral density in the axial skeleton, we need to be loading the skeleton. What does that mean? Probably hinging and squatting heavier weights, which means rep range is low. It's 3 to 6 max, and dose of load is higher. We need to be loading the axial skeleton. We need progressive overload. Again, all these things that come up when we are considering building muscle, we have to do the same thing with bone. We also need impact. We need impact. That doesn't mean that I'm getting my clients to jump first day. It does mean that my clients in their 70s are jumping, upper extremity assist jumping, heel drops, forceful stepping. Even those loud steps can make a huge difference for creating that stimulating factor for bone cells to regrow. And for my clients with severe osteoporosis, they're the ones who are most amenable to change. We talk about newbie gains when it comes to older adults who are deconditioned. They're going to see this large increase right away because of reserved motor unit recruitment and the ability to regenerate some of those lost muscular fibers because of patterns that were already there. The same is true when it comes to osteoporosis. We have this thought where we can have more growth for individuals who are more severely impaired. Their position to be able to change is going to play into as a factor there. There's obviously so many things that are involved in this, right? We have some medication profiles that are not great for promoting bone health, especially for my clients who are on things like tamoxifen after a breast cancer diagnosis. But there's still things that we can do, and that there's still things that as physios, we need to be considering health promotion. It is just so important for us to be thinking about lifestyle related factors. Another area of geriatric care that I think this comes up with is cardiovascular rehabilitation. When we go into somebody's house, and I'm sure my home health clinicians or my clinicians that are in institutionalized care like assisted living facilities are really gonna think about this, is when you go in and you're doing your original medical review and they have a laundry list of cardiovascular medications or cardiovascular pathology or history of cardiovascular surgery. And so you're thinking, okay, well, this person has a compromised heart. I need to consider that. When it comes to intensity, I'm going to need to be considering the amount of dyspnea, and I'm going to have to be measuring their pulse ox maybe a little bit more and checking if they're desatting, et cetera, which is great. We absolutely need to be doing that. We need to be considering their pathologies, but how are we starting to treat their heart? How are we starting to really consider, can we make it stronger? Can we make their heart a bit more resilient? And I'm in an outpatient orthopedic practice, and I have a wellness vein to my services. So obviously I am in a very privileged area to be able to do this, but I have had plenty of individuals who have come in for musculoskeletal complaints, and we have very quickly transitioned to cardiopulmonary rehabilitation because it is so important. And it is a skill set that we as PTs have. But how often are we looking at the cardiopulmonary rehabilitation guidelines and making sure that we're hitting the targets for those clients who are coming to us with cardiovascular compromise? I remember when I first started Stave Up, I ended up talking with an electrophysiologist. He did our catheter ablations or our electrical ablations for individuals with AFib. And what was coming up in the literature over and over again was that if you have a BMI of over 35, the chance of success from surgery for AFib was like 20%. And that's not very good. And then if you consider that to somebody who's in a normal BMI category, the chance of success elevated to like 80%. And so he said to me, I'm seeing all of these older adults. Many of them are not adhering to many healthy lifestyle factors. I'm doing this surgery and I feel like I'm wasting my time, because if their chance of success is 20%, why am I putting them under a risky surgery? And so he started talking to me about how can we start doing preventative style cardiovascular rehab. And going back and thinking about that, to me, it was just, it's a no-brainer that this is a world where PT should be involved. Some of my maintenance clients who I'm seeing one-on-one for long periods of time under PT are the ones who have really severe CHF. And if their cardiovascular function, their ejection fraction is like 30%, I'm probably not going to put them into a group base that isn't followed by a PT or medical provider or a fitness individual. Well, there are some wonderful fitness professionals that would be able to help, but I feel more comfortable having him in my care because I'm able to take his vitals. I am checking his dyspnea. I am monitoring his RPE, but we are pushing the intensity with him as well. And he really truly believes, he hasn't seen his cardiologist in a little while, that his heart has gotten stronger because he can feel it in his day-to-day activities. And now he very rarely complains about some of his musculoskeletal stuff because that has also improved. But it wasn't, in my mind, I wasn't considering only that he had cardiovascular compromise. I tried to reframe my thought process and said, how can I help treat his heart? I'm not a physician. I'm not going to be treating him with medications, but we know that cardiovascular or cardiopulmonary rehabilitation works. It is very, very good evidence that we can make a heart stronger, that we can make it more efficient, that we can make it heal faster after cardiovascular incident. So why are we not advocating for a role in this space? The only time I really see PTs talking about cardiopulmonary rehabilitation is if you're in a cardiac rehab program and working as a PT in a cardiac rehab program. But how much can we help our colleagues that are in those settings if we set up the foundations of cardiovascular rehabilitation preventatively? Or they know that once they DC them, that they know that there is a couple of PTs who will focus on cardiopulmonary rehabilitation in an outpatient or community-based setting. How can we try and promote some of our older adults to adhere to more healthy lifestyle factors so that we maybe don't have to see them in our practice for these types of things? And I think sometimes, especially when we're in home health and skilled nursing and assisted living, these things are just so hard to do, to try and get individuals to increase their level of activity, to be telling somebody who has had a really horrible diet for maybe 80 years that he should drop the bacon and pick up some salad. Like those types of things, they're not easy. And sometimes they're not actually going to make that much of a difference. It's why we're seeing that health promotion counseling, especially when we see a physician once every 6 months and they tell you to eat healthier, is not really going to drive behavior change. But as PTs, we see people more regularly on regular intervals than many physicians get the chance to. And therefore, we can be that person that is putting a drop in the bucket. Every time I see a client, irrespective of what I'm seeing them for, how old they are, I try and talk at least in a 30-second interval about something related to health. It can be nutrition, sleep, stress, movement, decreasing levels of sedentary behavior. It does not take a lot of time for me, but I consider it putting a drop in the bucket. And I've had some clients who I never thought would really be interested in getting into our CrossFit functional fitness style programs who are now crushing it in the gym. And I'd like to think that me having these conversations about how important it is as a female, as an older adult, to keep your muscles and your bones strong eventually made a difference. And you'll never really know, and it'll be hard to like do pre-post measurements on these things, but I don't want to just be thinking, okay, I need to be afraid or worried or conscientious about X, Y, and Z because of chronic condition ABC. I want to say, okay, I know that they have X, Y, Z. I'm seeing them for this musculoskeletal complaint, but how do I also treat these conditions? Is there some way that I can implement that? And so that might be that if you're doing squats with a person who's coming in for lower extremity arthritis, that their rest intervals are heel drops. Or you get them, instead of doing a high knee variation, you get them to do stomping variations. So now not only are you working on trying to decrease sensitivity to impact for individuals with arthritis and desensitize that system, but we're also making a stimulation for bone growth. If I have a client who I am seeing who has a shoulder issue, can I put them on an upper extremity erg or an assault bike, arms only, or rower, arms only, and get them doing intervals and then get them doing their rehab? So not only am I doing a bit of cardiopulmonary rehabilitation at the very beginning of my session, but I'm also fatiguing them, which is more likely to be where they are experiencing discomfort, and it'll allow me to really see what their resiliency looks like. All these things, are we only considering what we shouldn't be doing or what we should be avoiding with different chronic conditions, or are we actively trying to treat some of these chronic conditions that are really a huge driver of spending in our healthcare system? This is just the things that nerd out and that are in my mind, and I'm challenging you to think about this as well and let me know what you think. All right, that is it for me for today. If you are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, have a Guinness for this pregnant person, because I'm not going to be obviously enjoying any of that. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. I think this is the last time maybe I'm on PT on Ice before I head to the sampler. So if I don't see you on here before then, I hope I see you all smiling at the sampler. I'm super excited about that, and we will talk soon. Bye, everyone.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.